Rockies!
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pete Morris, and on behalf of everybody here at Virginia Tech, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. At this time, if you already haven't done so, please silence your mobile devices. And just the run of the show today, after some introductory remarks from our Director of Athletics, Whit Badcock, he's going to have a photo opportunity with Coach DeMoore. Then Coach will make some introductory remarks, and then I'll invite them both to take questions from the dais. So at this time, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce Whit Badcock.
All our staff clapping. They got out of work, Mark, to come down here. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today. And before we formally turn the next page or into the next chapter of Virginia Tech softball, I certainly want to pause for a brief second and look back for just a moment and appreciate our past and publicly recognize and thank Scott Thomas, and to say job well done. And you're all aware, or many of you are aware, of all the accolades that Scott earned, and to start the program up on the intramural field, to get to the World Series, to leave it in such great shape and the foundation is today, certainly should be honored and appreciated. And I wanted to at least express that. It's never easy when that chapter ends, but Scott left it way, way better than he found it. So he deserves that. Also, much respect for all the former players, coaches, and staff that built the foundation that we're going to play from starting today, including our best player in history, Angela Tensioner O'Brien. So I also want to thank the President and Board of Visitors for their faith and support in allowing us to go and recruit and do our job and bring high-quality individuals to Virginia Tech. I want to thank Chris Helms, who ran the search. Wherever Chris is, he does a great job with that, and his role on the World Series and softball committee played a huge role in this as well. And Derek Gwynn and Angie Littlejohn and all of those that helped behind the scenes in the athletic department and across campus. And I also want to thank Kennesaw State. I've been on the other end of this. Thanks for their professionalism, and I know it puts them in a bind to lose good coaches, but they were pros and very gracious and helped develop a wonderful coach we have here today. So this next chapter of Virginia Tech softball is in great hands with Pete DeMoore. We are all excited for the future success that we know will be coming. Pete and Scott have already connected. Actually, Pete initiated that, and transitions and respect are important here. Our search started with a blank list. It was no desk drawer or those things you've heard potentially about having candidates. It was a decision on the transition that we weighed heavily and for a long time, and it was difficult, but we felt best for our future. So when we started the search, I had somewhat, for lack of a better term, lost track of Pete in this way. We worked together from 2007 through 11 at Missouri. I knew he had left Missouri a few years later, but I had not followed Kennesaw State. I remembered him fondly, but again, had not kept in touch. And so when Chris Helms and I started the search, we each went through our connections in softball, and we just went about calling people, cross-referencing, looking, and seeing what names rose to the top. And I was glad to see Pete's do that, and it was nice to say, hey, I know him, and I've worked with him before. So then we found 2 to 3 coaches that we really wanted to focus on. We evaluated them, we vetted them, and we recruited the one we wanted. Pete was our top choice, and I'm so thrilled that he's here. And certainly our time at Missouri gave me, or Chris and I, great comfort in his ability to lead. I got to see it firsthand, and it sped up the vetting and evaluation process when you can call out there to people you know and certainly get a good look at somebody from behind the scenes. I was very impressed with what we heard from coaches, administrators, and especially players. They love playing for him. And as a coach, you got to have that respect and love for your players, and when you get both, you've got something special. He has that. So Pete checked all of our boxes, so to speak, the ones that we wanted. We preferred a sitting head coach. We won't always do that, but you sure do learn a lot in that big chair, and to come into an ACC job with those credentials, that's what we were looking for, ideally. We wanted a proven winner. We found that, one that knows how to do it the right way and at the Power 5 level. Pete certainly knows what a great softball player looks like, and the College World Series experience is invaluable. He's a recruiter. He's NCAA compliant. He believes in academics and the total person. He coaches his softball players hard like athletes and treats them like ladies. And he wanted to be at Virginia Tech. We have a number of candidates and other times and other positions where people just say, hey, I want to come to the Power 5 or the ACC or this or that. He had done his homework, and Virginia Tech meant a lot to him, and I really like that. He also has Mid-Atlantic roots, and on and on and on. We wanted someone ideally who had had to hustle at some point in their career or have that grit. And y'all have maybe heard me say that before. Not that we won't ever hire a coach that's only been at Texas and Michigan or Ohio State, but we sure like when they've had to go somewhere and cut their teeth. And that experience at Kennesaw State, he had a heck of a team coming back. And again, it was a great leap of faith, or he had in us to leave them. So sure enough, his ability, we believe in his ability to follow the only coach we've ever had, and he certainly reflects the values we have at Virginia Tech. So it's a great day to be a Hokie as we move forward. We're proud and honored to introduce you all to the next head coach of the Hokies. Welcome to Virginia Tech, Pete D'Amour. Pete before or after? Right now?
All right.
Pete and Pete.
I can't fit in that.
Oh, wait, I'm not the coach here. You are. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Whit. Right now is an opportunity for me to just thank a bunch of people that have been influential in my life. First, Whit and Chris. They ran a first-class search. They made me feel welcome from the get-go, from the initial contact. And, that was important to me, to have an administrator that wanted me. The alumni, the softball alumni, have reached out to me, and I want to thank all of them. It's a proud, tight-knit group, and I didn't know how many coaches that I knew that graduated from Tech until they reached out to me. So it's a small community of in softball, and I thank all of them for reaching out to me, and I look forward to building on what they accomplished here. The coaches, I think I heard from every head coach at Virginia Tech, and they've been really helpful. I even got a call from Coach Beamer, and I was like, man, I have arrived. I was like, so thank you for calling, I appreciate it. Yeah, Coach Thomas and I had a good talk. I talked to him last week after I got announced. I've known about the job that Coach Thomas has done for a long time, and he made regionals, World Series, had a really successful program. And I told him I respect his history of the program, and I don't look to reinvent history, but we're just going to build on what he has built here. As far as Kennesaw goes, I just want to thank my administrators. Scott Whitlock, he ended up being a pretty good mentor for me and a good friend. My assistant coaches were really, really good at Kennesaw. They made me better, or look better than what I am. And then my team, my kids were great there. They had 100% buy-in from the get-go, and they trusted me when I told them, we could win a conference championship and go to regionals, and we did it in 2 years, and they bought in. That was all of them. So they never gave me any issues, and they really their hard work allowed me to get closer to home. Missouri, spent 10 years there, and Aaron Earlywine hired me. He's the best X's and O's coach I've ever been around. So a lot of my coaching on the field philosophies are based on what Aaron taught me. Phil Bradley, he was a mentor to me, and he still is today. All my former players at Mizzou, I've heard from a lot of them. So I want to thank them for taking their time to just reach out to me. My high school baseball coach, Dave Rebar, still talk to him a bunch. I have some fast pitch mentors or coaches that I looked up to growing up. Dr. Benedictus and Skip Duvall, really good fast pitch guys. And then my parents, they've done a lot for me, and thank you for coming. And then, you guys probably know I got engaged last week, and so it's been add on some more stress to me. But yeah, Anna, you'll meet her. She's working today, but she's really made my transition into being a head coach a lot easier. She knows when to let off the gas and when to press me, and she's going to make my job easier. So as Whit was saying, Virginia Tech has been on my mind for a long time. I remember going into his office when he was at Mizzou, and I knew he was from Harrisonburg, and I said, man, Virginia Tech, that'd be a good one. So it's not, and I told Chris on the search committee when he asked me if I was interested, and kids would come into my office at Kennesaw and say, how long are you staying? And I say, I don't know, but I would leave for Virginia Tech. So it's not something I sold just to get the job. You know, the area is awesome. I'm a rural guy. The conference, the facilities, the administration, the team that's coming back is just all kind of positive. I couldn't find a negative when I was looking at this job. So I thank you all for coming, and take it from here. Go Hokies.
You guys sit down. Okay. At this point, we'll open it up to questions since Coach probably doesn't know any of you in the media. If you'd please say your name and affiliation. We've got mics around the room, so at this time, raise your hand, and if you got a question, be free to start off.
Hi, Mark Berman of the Roanoke Times. Pete, can you kind of talk about your pitching philosophy and your hitting philosophy that you kind of plan to bring to Virginia Tech to kind of get the program revved back up again?
Sure. Hitting-wise, I'm all about exit speed and bat speed. So, you know, there's a 5-part piece to hitting. You know, there's, bore you, I'll tell you all 5. It's mechanics, pitch selection, pitch recognition, timing, and approach. So you can be a really good hitter and have 2 of those. You can be a great hitter and have 3, but you can't just have 1. So I really hammer home in my batting practices hitting all 5 of those aspects. So we try to hit on those every day. Pitching wise, I like kids, you know, strike throwers, you know, kids that battle, and I'm big on moving the ball up and down and change up. So I mean, when I played men's fast pitch, there's, you know, guys threw rise, they threw a change, and they threw a drop. So there's not 6 pitches. So if you can be really good at 3 of them, you have a chance. If you're good at 2 of them, you have a chance, but you can't just have 1.
Coach Tim Thomas from the Tech Lunch Pail. First off, congrats on the job. How important was your relationship with Whit in making you comfortable to say yes to this job?
It was really important. You know, we didn't have much interaction at Mizzou, but the time that I did, he was upfront, he was honest. You know, he was someone I could work for. So it was a big decision for me, and Whit made it easier.
Pete, what do you kind of, what you know about the program right now, what do you kind of see as the state of the program you're inheriting, and how fast or slow a situation is this to kind of get this program winning again?
Well, right away, you see good pitching and you see good defense, and those 2 things win a lot of games for you right off the bat. I was just telling somebody I don't see this as a major rebuild. I think the team hit 240 last year. If we could, I mean, at the bare minimum, hit 280, that could be an extra 10 wins. So I don't see it as, you know, we're in the cellar and it's I mean, it's a good job, and there's good players here.
Coach, in regards to your assistants, have you considered any assistants or bringing anyone from Kennesaw State with you at this point?
Sure. I'm kicking it around. I don't know yet. I'm certainly open to talking to the current staff and seeing where they're at, and you know, we'll see. You guys will know first thing.
You mentioned you were looking for, your preference was an existing head coach. What other kind of qualities were you looking for in a head coach when you kind of looked around in the search?
Yeah, hopefully I covered some of those, but I'd be happy to cover it again. In no particular order, Mark, you look for a proven winner, somebody that has that fire to compete and go and do this job at a really high level. You want somebody that fits the values of Virginia Tech. I think we've done a very good job at that in our hiring, and Coach Beamer set the pace and the brand for that, and that's a roadmap that'll never steer us wrong. Someone that can recruit the Mid-Atlantic. I don't know that Pete had done a ton of that, but his Maryland and Mid-Atlantic roots, and as much as we like Mid-Atlantic and Virginia players, we don't care where they come from as long as they love Virginia Tech and play hard. But I also had no doubt when I learned of his recruiting connections in the interview process that he could get in here and get it rolling. Certainly want somebody NCAA compliant, somebody that treats their players with respect, somebody that wants to come along and be a good teammate around here too, Mark. I like people that are in the community and root for each other, and that's why it makes me very proud to hear that all of our coaches and everybody else reached out to Pete. They didn't have to do that. So that's a long answer, but we got the guy we wanted.
Whit, this was a pretty quick search for you guys. What made you so comfortable with Pete being the guy to take over this program as quickly as?
Yeah, they are pretty quick. Although I also think that's the best way to do it if you can. You certainly don't want to rush and make a bad decision, but NC State was in the market at the time. Missouri had already gone. Texas was in the market. Not that we're probably, although they would have been great to hire him. Their budget's just a lot bigger. So in that situation, I don't think you can drag your feet. And again, when Chris and I did our due diligence, he's on the softball selection committee. He knows a lot of coaches on, and I did too. And very quickly, Pete's name came up. Again, I didn't start out with Pete. We started out with no list, really. It wasn't, but when his name kept coming up, it was like, all right, I'm glad to hear that. Let me dig back in there. And then when I spoke to him, I just felt like he had that humble confidence and he had really grown as a coach. And when you work with somebody for 5 years, it's pretty easy to know enough people to find out what they're really about. And I felt like I knew it, and it was very easy to connect with people at Missouri and find out what really made him tick. So a lot of that sped up the process.
Pete, what kind of gives you confidence that you're ready to become a head coach in a power conference?
First thing, I did 95% of the recruiting at Missouri. Nobody knows that. I was pretty much the face of the program since I was the recruiting coordinator. I was the associate head coach at Missouri. I played Auburn. We played Auburn to 2-1. I think we beat them or lost to them 2-1 last year. Neck and neck in regionals this year. So. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen both sides of the spectrum. I've been in the SEC and I've been to A-Sun. So it's how big the stage is doesn't really bother me. I mean, it's when you get on the field, it's softball. So you prepare kids just I'll prepare the ACC kids just like I did the Kennesaw kids. So I'm not too worried about it.